I would like to address false claims that circulate online regarding expats and their right to vote in the UK general elections. I'm here outside the local council offices, which is where you vote as an expat in local elections in Spain. There's been a lot online saying that you are not entitled to vote in the British elections if you are an expat and you don't live in the country. Regardless of how many years you've lived abroad, regardless of why you live abroad, if you're working, retired, you do have a right to register and have your voice heard in the British elections. Obviously, it's a bit of an unsteady time at the UK. You never quite know when an election may be called. You can register on the gov.uk website, and you register with your last address that you held in the UK. The local authority where you previously lived before you moved out of the country will then contact you, and you will be registered on the electoral roll for 3 years. You must renew that if you want to stay on the electoral roll to vote in British national elections. You're also eligible to vote if there is a referendum. Obviously, you can vote locally in Spain as well, where you need to register with the local council in Spain, Ayuntamiento. I'm stood outside the local Ayuntamiento at the moment. If you want to vote in the Spanish elections, you cannot vote in the national elections, but you can vote in local elections in the region where you live. When you collect your Padrón, anyone who is an expat will understand what a Padrón is. You need to collect several every year. You can ask them if you have been added to the electoral roll. If you have not, ask them when the dates are open for your application, which will be accepted if you are a resident in Spain. We'll ask them what dates you need to register. Very simple process. Now, as I said, if you are a British expat and you live in Spain, you are allowed to vote in national elections, and you are allowed to vote also if there's a referendum. You must remember to keep your registration on the electoral roll in the UK up to date. It's slightly different if you live in Northern Ireland, because there's 3 ways to vote. If you live in Scotland, if you live in England, or you live in Wales, you can vote by proxy, just a person to post your vote for you. You can vote postal. Obviously, you'll need plenty of time because particularly in Spain, our post services are very slow. Or you can vote in person, which obviously is the preferred method. Now, if you live in Northern Ireland, you only have an option of proxy or in person. That's what I understood. I checked on ChatGPT before I came to do this video, and that's what ChatGPT or whatever it's called told me for Northern Ireland. It's slightly different, but it's the same way of registering. You go to the government website and register your intention to vote. A lot of people fought for our voice and our right to vote, so we have a duty to our ancestors who give us this right to actually vote, and I do it in person. It doesn't matter how many years you have not lived in the UK. If you are a British citizen and you have previously lived in the UK, you have a right, and in my opinion, a duty to vote in the national elections. You can vote in the national elections and you can vote in referendums. It is false to think that people who have moved abroad do not have interest in their homeland. We're very interested in what goes on. I feel very English, very British, and I have lived abroad over 20 years, more than 20 years. And I'm still very interested in my country, where my family live, where I come from, and I understand politics very clearly. So I feel that I have a duty to vote in my national elections. I cannot vote in my local elections at home, obviously. I don't live in the UK anymore. I can vote in local elections in Spain, but I still have a voice in the UK and I can vote and I want to vote and I'm very interested in what happens in my country because I am English, I am British, but for reasons which are private to myself, I don't live in the UK. I visit plenty and it is my country. And I object to people who tell me that I have no right to vote in my country's national elections.